Okay, welcome to ACT and Grammar video number 2. Today with lesson 2 we're going to be taking on simple and compound sentences. But before we get into what simple and compound sentences are all about, let's do a quick little review of the first video, independent and dependent clauses, right? Like we said, we got to have an understanding of clauses for the ACT and to improve our own writing, and so we can build longer, more sophisticated sentences. So, because like we said, clauses are the building blocks of all of our different kinds of sentences, right? So to understand what's going on with simple and compound sentences, first we got to understand what's going on with clauses, which help us make these sentences, right? So just a quick little review. Remember, independent, just like an independent person, right? Independent clause can be its own sentence. It's got a subject, it's got a verb, it's a complete thought, it can be its own sentence. Okay? Then dependent clause has a subject, has a verb, but it has one of those subordinated conjunctions, and it's not a complete thought. It can't be its own sentence. It can't stand on its own. Okay? So to understand the different kinds of sentences that we're going to be talking about today, we got to understand these different kinds of clauses, right? Okay. So let's move on to our simple sentence, right? I'll move this down a little bit so we can see. Right? Simple sentence is, well, it's right there in the title. It's simple. It's simple because it's just one independent clause by itself, right? It's just one, and that's why I put a big I, right? It's just one independent clause by itself, because an independent clause can be its own sentence. So when there's one independent clause by itself, then that's a simple sentence, right? A few examples. Goodwin Brown lost faith in his wife. One simple sentence, it's one independent clause, right? We've got a subject, we've got a verb, it's a complete thought. Brown went into the forest late at night. Subject, we've got a verb, we've got a complete thought, so it's one independent clause. So since it's one independent clause by itself, right, that's what makes it a simple sentence, okay? The townspeople live double lives. Subject, verb, complete thought, complete sentence. So it's one independent clause, so that's what makes it a simple sentence. Even shorter, even more simple. The test was easy. That's it. That's what we call a simple sentence, because it's one independent clause, right? The test was easy. That's it. Let's see if we've got, I think we've got one or two more. Yeah. I read on the train. We've got a subject, we've got a verb, we've got a complete thought. Right? What did you do today on your way to school? I read on the train. Complete thought. So it's a simple sentence. Right? This one's simple. We ordered Chinese food and pizza. Right? One idea, one simple thought. It's one independent clause, so it's a simple sentence. Okay? So simple sentence, again, just to review, one independent clause by itself. And so that's why I put this big I here. So that's how you should remember it in your notes. Simple sentence, just one independent clause. Make sense? Okay. So the next kind of sentence that we're going to be talking about today are compound sentences. Now, compound sentences is where we have two independent clauses. So remember, simple sentence was just one independent clause by itself. Now with compound, we have two independent clauses, and they're joined together by a comma. These two independent clauses, right, we've got independent, and they're joined together by a comma and a fanboy. So by a comma and a fanboy. That's how we make a fanboy. So again, we're taking one independent clause and another independent clause, and we're putting it together in the same sentence with a comma and a fanboy. So some of you guys might be familiar with that term, fanboys, right? So it's an acronym, right? So, like I said, some of you guys might be familiar. Some of you guys might not have heard this term before. So let's go through, what does fanboys mean? Okay? Fanboy stands for and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Okay? For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. That's what fanboy stands for. So to make a compound sentence, we join one independent clause with another independent clause and put it together in the same sentence with a comma and one of these fanboys. Okay? So real quickly, and, but, or, so, we know how to use those already. In this situation, yet and but mean the same thing, right? We can use those the same way. When you use but, you can use yet, and when you use yet, you can use but. Those can be used interchangeably, right? Those two pretty much mean the same thing. Okay, this for, what does the for mean, right? Because it's not the number for, right? So when we use for as a fanboy, it basically means because. It basically means because. So for example, we could say something like, school was canceled, comma, for it snowed 8 feet of snow. Right? School was canceled, right? Independent clause, that could be its own sentence. It snowed 8 feet. That can be its own sentence. So we've got independent clause with the comma for, the comma fanboy. And in this situation, for means because. School was canceled because it snowed 8 feet, comma for. Make sense? So all these fanboys can be used to join two independent clauses in the same sentence. So that's a quick little rundown of our first two kinds of sentences. We've got simple sentences, and then we've got compound sentences. Compound is with two independents and a comma and a fanboy. Let's look at some more examples, okay? So let's clear this out. And here we go. Here's some examples, right? Here's some examples of, more examples of compound sentences. Goodman Brown lost faith in his wife. That could be its own sentence, right? So that's an independent clause. He didn't trust her for the rest of his life. That could be its own sentence. So we've got independent clause, and we join those two together with a comma and the fanboy and. He lost faith in his wife, and he didn't trust her for the rest of his life. So those two independent clauses brought together in the same sentence with the comma, fanboy, and. Okay? How about the next one? Brown went into the forest late at night, so he lost faith in his wife. Right? Brown went into the forest late at night. That can be its own sentence, right? That's an independent clause. He lost faith in his wife. That can be its own sentence. It's an independent clause, right? And so we connect those two in the same sentence with the comma and the fanboy, so. Right? We join those two independent clauses together with a comma and a fanboy. That's what makes our compound sentence. Okay? Last one. The townspeople appeared holy, comma, but they were Satan worshipers. They appeared holy. They seemed to be holy. That's an independent clause. That could be its own sentence. They were Satan worshipers. That's an independent clause. That could be its own sentence. And we connect those two in the same sentence with a comma, but. Comma fanboy, right? And that's how we make that's how we make compound sentences. So again, to review, we've got our we've got our simple sentence, which is just one independent clause, and then we've got our compound sentences, which is two independent clauses joined by a comma and a fanboy. So if you understood everything in this video, go ahead and take lesson number 2 quiz on simple and compound sentences. If you'd like to review a little bit more, watch the video again. Okay, good luck.